Hello everyone, this is John from Forest Physiotherapy. I thought it would be interesting to invite some well-known local runners for a 3D gait analysis using the motion metric system and have a detailed look at their running biomechanics so you can see what they do really well and what they can improve on. So I hope you enjoy it. The first of these featured runners is Colin Davenport. He's a very experienced runner from Matlock Athletic Club who recently completed the London Marathon in a very impressive 2 hours and 36 minutes. He reports no recent injuries, but does feel like most of his running power comes from his thigh muscles, and reports that the outside of his hips are the area he feels the most fatigued towards the end of a long race or run. To analyse his gait, we had him running at 16 kilometers per hour, which is his marathon race pace, and captured his running gait using the 3D motion metric system. So, looking at the results, we can see that Colin contacts the ground with an initial heel strike. There have been many claims about certain foot strikes being more efficient and that they reduce the risk of injury, but currently there's no evidence to suggest that running economy and overall injury rates are affected by different foot strike positions. We do know that rear foot strikers do tend to load the upper leg more than the forefoot strikers, who tend to put more load through the lower leg, ankle and foot. This may be why Colin feels the muscles around his thighs and hips are working much harder. Colin also has very short contact times, with each of his feet only being in contact with the ground for just 1/5 of a second, indicating that he is utilising great elastic response from his muscles and tendons. Colin has good balanced trunk posture, which allows him to utilise the storage and release of energy from his core muscles to drive his arms and legs forwards and backwards powerfully and efficiently. We can see here that the force that Colin uses to absorb his landing and launch himself back into the air is relatively low. This could be the reason why he doesn't suffer from too many injuries, as lower vertical forces are associated with reduced joint and limb loading. Colin is dampening these forces by reducing the amount of up and down bouncing movement as he runs by adopting a more gliding running technique. You can see here that Colin adopts a crossover gait pattern whereby he has a very narrow and overlapping steps, almost like running on a tightrope. This is a very efficient way of running as it puts greater load on the super strong and elastic IT band, which can help with frontal plane stability. It also minimises energy losses through side-to-side movements, which we see in runners with wider gait patterns. It does, however, put greater strain on structures on the outside of the upper leg, such as the hip abductors and IT band. This could be a reason why Colin feels more strain on the outside of his hips after long runs. We can see here that Colin uses good elastic spring from his tendons, with his contributing to 29% of a possible 50% of the total work of running. If you watch my last video, this storage and release of energy from the tendons can reduce the metabolic cost of running significantly and can be changed through gait retraining and plyometrics. However, very surprisingly, the system has calculated Colin's overall mechanical running economy as slightly lower than average when compared to over 1,000 runners. The likely cause is the position of his lower leg as it strikes the ground. We can see that his foot is landing 20 centimetres in front of his hips and that the angle of his shin, also known as the shank angle, is quite acute. This creates a braking force on each foot strike, which causes him to slow down slightly. He then has to use additional energy to accelerate in order to maintain his pace. This can be metabolically costly over the course of a marathon. Now, I wouldn't want to change too much about Colin's running gait as he doesn't have any injuries and he's obviously doing something right to have such fast race times. But if we wanted to make improvements to his running efficiency, we would focus on reducing his overstride and subsequent braking forces. To test this, we experimented with a simple gait modification by increasing his cadence from 177 steps per minute to 181 using a metronome to provide an external cue whilst he ran. The results were fantastic. Colin now lands with his leg more underneath him and closer to his centre of mass. He lands with a more flexed knee and his shin is perpendicular to the ground. As a result of reducing his overstride, his braking forces were reduced massively. These changes increased his tendon spring significantly and as a result improved his mechanical running economy by a whopping 10%. This improvement can make a massive difference to his overall race performance. However, there are a few caveats to the improvements seen in Colin's mechanical running economy. The change in technique increased the peak forces he lands with from 160 kilograms to 202 with each landing. This is good in the fact that it will help improve the elastic recoil of his tendons, but it will also increase the overall loads going through his body. The technique also shifted his foot strike from a rear foot to more of a forefoot strike. This will increase the demand on his foot, ankle and calf complex. It's very common for runners to start landing more on their forefoot when they shorten their step length. Given more time, we would practice the same gait techniques, but with more of a rear foot strike, as acute changes in foot strike are associated with greater injury risk. In order to transition to the greater loads, Colin would need to practice and transition to the new running technique gradually during his training sessions, and also build the load tolerance of his legs and tendons by supplementing his training with progressive strength training and eventually plyometrics. I hope you found this video interesting. I'd like to thank Colin for allowing me to share his gait analysis video. If you're interested in finding out about your running mechanics, whether you have a niggling injury or you want to improve your race times, or you just want to run a bit more efficiently, then please book your 3D Run Fit assessment at www.forestphysio.co.uk. Thank you for watching.